Welcome to Board Ghost, a story podcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, or has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me, no. Dying don't agree with me, no. All you board ghosts, come with me, we're going home.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories, for shared experiences. We can't see you, can't hear you, and yet we will play for you. This night's offering is Fiasco. We're going to be playing the playset Dragonslayer. Our humble players,
Giaco Furino.
And with you as always, Ken Breese.
and me, John Holt. So the game we're going to play is Dragonslayer, which is in the 2010 playset anthology. So it's the Volume 1 playset anthology. And I believe you can also purchase the PDF of it online.
Yeah, they have great online support, actually. I've always been so pleased to see how much the community actually around Fiasco really creates playsets, and then Bully Pulpit, it really gives them representation, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and so each playset, most of them have sort of a movie night or credits, things to look at in reference for what you're doing. And so this playset has Army of Darkness, Conan the Barbarian, and The Gamer's Darkness Rising as their sort of movie night
Sets the
selections.
tone. This
Yeah.
is sort of what
Cool.
what the vibe of this game, or what this might be like to some degree.
Yeah.
Dragonslayers, the playset, I believe, takes place after a band of adventurers has slayed a dragon and the calamity that slowly befalls them thereafter.
But that's when the story ends. So
Of course, why?
So
you know,
we're done.
We're done
Yeah.
now.
We won.
can all go home. We won. Good. We won.
So now we've got an episode grid that we built out using the dice. If you want to find out more about how we built this grid, listen to our Fiasco Primer episode.
Yeah.
Our grid between myself, Belaria Greenstars, and Giaco's character Melzakorn, there's war, and we each have a scar that the other gave them. Between Umbrah and Giaco's character Melzakorn, there is magic relationship, creator and golem, and between Umbrah, Ken, myself, Belaria Greenstars, there's adventure, rescuer and rescuee relationship. Within the center, we have our needs to fly before they realize who you really work for, an object, a trophy, a tome of dark rituals, a location from the past, a wizard mentor's cottage, looted after his death.
And there you have it. We've just now generated our entire Fiasco. Our characters are set. I'm just sort of going to talk out my process here. So I'm playing a golem. So a golem is a creature of stone, usually. They could be made out of flesh, like Frankenstein, too, some might say.
Or clay.
Or clay, exactly. I think that my character, whose name is Umbrah, I think is going to be, as a golem, right, is not alive. I think my character is genderless. I don't think they're a male or a female.
Cool.
They don't have sexual organs. They're basically a construct. They've been created out of other things and then given magical life. So golems are very impervious to pain and to magic to some degree because of that. So my character, I think, is more like the tank of the group, the person
Right.
who sort of walks into danger on purpose to have it affect them, so it doesn't affect those that they are with. My character is more of a guardian. That would make a lot of sense for why I may have rescued John's character
Right.
in the past or recent past, and obviously why I would have been created by Giaco's character to guard Giaco's character.
Right.
And so I'm getting the sense now that for me, that this tome of occult rituals or evil rituals has some bearing on my own freedom, maybe? I
Right.
think that's where my character is to fly, right? The need is to fly before they realize who you really work for.
Right.
And so who do I really work for is a good question for my character that I'm not going to answer right now, but that is sort of at the crux.
Two, I'm going to kind of point, like we briefly touched on this playset, but one sort of note they're saying as a tip is this playset focuses on the fallout after a group of gung-ho adventurers wipes out a mythical monster. It contains details that point towards the town the characters saved and the dungeon where they fought, which we haven't really pulled in, but we're free to do so.
Right.
You can start after the victory, maybe dropping in some flashbacks to the adventure, or make the first act take place in the dungeon beforehand. So
I really like
a lot of leeway.
I really like that the location from the past is the dungeon.
Cool.
That we went to this wizard mentor's cottage,
Right.
which was taken over, and all this awesome magical shit was there that we were going to go pick up
Cool.
because your maybe mentor had been killed
Right.
by this monster, and so who better to come back and claim your mentor's stuff than you two?
Right.
All right.
And you just brought me along, obviously, because I'm helpful.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to go on your character, Giaco?
Sure. Yeah. So my character is Melzakorn, and he is a wizard. I would even say a dark wizard.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily your Merlin type. This tome of dark rituals that we got from my mentor's cottage or from wherever we were adventuring. This is something I want to hold on to for sure. And maybe in this world, creating golems is not the thing that good guys do necessarily. I like the thought of, with us having scarred each other, that now, that'll be interesting as to why we have to work together.
Well, were you apprentices together? Did you come up together?
Maybe. I was kind of thinking that if there was any of that aspect, so my character,
Yes, tell us more.
Belaria Greenstars, is more maybe once trained as such, but turned towards more of like an Earth Mother druidic sort of thing.
Very
Kind of
cool.
got drawn in the magic, maybe drawn away from the darkness into more of a neutrally Earth Mother kind of world that understands the place that darker magic has in things, but also needs to maintain balance, and so
Right.
aligns themselves appropriately.
Yeah.
So there was a point where we don't always align, and there are points where it's important that we do. And
Right.
So that's
So for me, mentor's cottage is really the key word with this location, and I feel like a cottage is more a druid's home than an evil wizard's home.
Yeah, absolutely.
somewhere in the woods.
Right. So maybe this mentor was more of a neutral sort of aligned mentor rather than,
Right.
and they were holding on to this
Tome.
for safekeeping.
Right.
And now that they've been done away with by whatever monster showed up, or I guess we're talking about a dragon,
Right.
now we've come in to make sure that this thing stays in the right hands, as the case may be.
Right. Yeah. I like the idea. That's a good idea that my character is actually maybe was risen closer to that tradition, that druidic tradition, and has sort of
And then
gone.
turned away. Like maybe the scarring that happened was the point at which you two sort of went in opposite directions.
That sounds great. Yeah.
All right. So who would like to set the first scene?
I really like the idea of starting after the action.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we're sort of out of breath regrouping at our mentor's cottage, or sort of after, maybe there's a giant dragon corpse still smoking right outside the cottage.
Basically, you have two options here, Giaco. It's your scene. So you can set the scene, play it out like a movie, or however you want to tell this little piece of the tale.
Right.
And then when you reach what you feel is a natural break where you will gain or lose something, you can let the group decide where it's going to go for you. And you can include either of us in that tale.
Right. You need to choose one of us, basically, that you're having the scene with, as the case may
Okay.
be. And then
Great.
the other person, who's the odd person out, will choose which of us, or rather you, if you're getting what you sort of want out of the scene, whether it's going your way or not. So when I enter a scene, I start to think about what does my character want or need, and what does the other character want and need. And
Right.
that sort of informs, at least my play, how I then approach that scene. So
Great.
the scene is we're right outside the cottage. The dragon, as the case may be, is dead.
Right.
And we're there now.
Right.
Right there.
Right. Yeah. So I'll set the scene. I would say that Belaria and I are sort of kind of dusting off our robes or whatever we're wearing. And, it's time to go into our old mentor's cottage that we actually haven't even been in yet.
In the background, Umbrah is just like wrenching the dragon's neck, basically, with its huge
Right. And
fists.
we both have like salves on us
Yeah.
that are kind of adjusting the burns and turning them quickly into scars
Great.
all over our bodies.
Yeah. And Umbrah will keep sort of wringing that neck. Don't worry. It'll make sure that it's dead. So the first thing we have to do is sort of, I think, get into the cottage. This would be protected in some way. So, Belaria, you know this sort of woods magic. How are we going to get into this?
Well, we should assume that the dragon who is here may have also entered, and there may be some of his own magics protecting it. It may be best to have someone else test it.
I've got just the someone. Umbrah,
Yeah.
go ahead and just smash down this front door.
Yes, Creator.
Okay, and so as Umbrah sort of smashes down this door, I think all sorts of magical alarms or defenses would trigger kind of at Umbrah.
The end
I
of
think
the
that's a
scene.
good. I think that's yeah.
I think you got exactly what you wanted.
Okay.
You needed to get into the cottage, and
Cool.
you wanted to set off the magic, and you did.
Go with
But
that.
All
now
right.
we've given you a positive die, but since this is the first round, you have to give that away to someone.
All right.
So you give it to one of us.
And we can kind of, as a group, or you can decide what does that positive outcome also mean
Yes.
for the scene. Yes,
Right.
you've gotten what you want, but what does that mean? Like, how does that play out?
Right. So right now I give this to somebody else. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to give this to Umbrah because yes, I got in, but this is sort of in a way, I guess, in some ways, this is what Umbrah is designed to do, to sort of be a protector. And even though these calamities are happening to Umbrah, it's protecting us from those calamities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and some of it just kind of washes over.
Right.
Because it's like a neutral golem being, like just kind of
Exactly.
a clay monstrosity, or
Yeah.
clay and flesh.
So yeah, the sort of the fire and lightning that sort of whatever sparking up sort of scorches Umbrah's exterior, but it just plows through. And I'm just gonna flow right into the next scene as the door is smashed down. It's revealed that inside the cottage, on the outside of the cottage, it looks very much like a woodsy home. It's very, I guess the best way to put it is kitschy. It's made out of stones. There's a stone foundation that then sort of goes up halfway until it turns into a more log cabin sort of feeling. There's a stone chimney that's sort of bent to one side where smoke usually comes out of. The top is a sod roof. That's sort of green and brown, and things are growing all over it, flowers, vines, and those sort of things then hang down over awnings to sort of shade the windows and those types of things. So effectively, we've smashed through a wooden door that one would think would be quite easy to break through, but was quite difficult. It had more the consistency of stone, and then the magics that were protecting it also unleashed. As the door is smashed down, the inside of the cottage is much more expansive than one would think. It looks more like a great hall. And this hall at this point is dim and dark. There might be coals in a fireplace with a large mantle at some point. But as Umbrah sort of clomps in, clomp, it turns around and looks to Belaria and says, Greenstars, where is the tome?
We'll have to see if any of us should get near it. If there are these kind of protections just on the door, we can't imagine what was in there protecting the book itself, especially if the dragon wasn't able to move it.
You do not know where it is.
I may have an idea, a sense of where we could find it.
You can sort of smell it.
Yeah, like taste it. But yeah, I think we'll have to tread carefully.
As we're talking, NPC appears. It is a small raven that flutters in, and we all know to be the familiar of the dead mentor. And what does the raven say?
The raven says, "Intruder."
Umbrah waves its hand, big fist
Right.
at this bird, trying to just
Intruder!
wave it out
Intruder!
of the way.
You're annoying me.
I think that's the end of my scene, honestly. I don't think I got what I wanted. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel. I mean, Giaco, you're actually more the decider here.
I don't think that you got what you wanted. I agree, because I think that you wanted just to help or to be, I don't know, be an active part, and this thing sort of got in your way.
Yes, I will hand my negative die here over to John, to Belaria.
All right.
'Cause I don't think things are going to go Belaria's way in the end.
Sorry, Belaria.
But who knows? We'll see. As for the negative outcome, though, I'm guessing that the negative outcome is maybe that the floor breaks away underneath us and we fall to a level that we had previously not known about. Mm-hmm. As the bird is calling at us,
Right.
The intruders sounds almost like some sort of incantation.
Like a triggered word,
Right.
Yes, exactly. And
Right.
the floor breaks away.
And it kind of cackles.
Yeah, it does. And we all smash to the ground, or at least Umbrah smashes to the ground. How do you two?
Melkor absolutely smashes to the ground.
Yeah. I fall gracefully to the ground and hurt myself pretty bad.
Yeah.
So do you guys have like broken limbs now or something like that, or you're just bruised up?
I think we're bruised up.
I think we're
pretty
bruised
bad,
up.
yeah.
All right.
I imagine Melkor being pretty old, something we didn't talk about, but I imagine Melkor.
That's good. See, this
Yeah.
is what you sort of figure out as you
Right,
play.
this
This
is
is
really
perfect.
cool,
So
yeah.
he is old. All right.
So
he
I
is
imagine
older.
Melkor as old, maybe not naturally, right? That maybe the stuff that he's messing with has aged his body and he looks like a 75-year-old man.
That's cool. And so, are you like the opposite then for Belaria? Is she like the blush of life?
Yeah, I think so. A little like.
And we're the same
sort of
age, technically.
like unnaturally young.
You're
yeah.
younger.
Were we
You're like a year
twins?
younger.
Yeah, my hourglass eyes.
That's awesome. So this, just for the listeners, for our board ghosts, this is a really interesting thing. We've been, the last two scenes, the ones that Giaco and myself, Ken, have done, have basically been right one after the other. So now, I mean, for John, he can either obviously pick right back up or say, we're now way in the future in our story, or we're even doing a flashback or
Right.
whatever. So it's like you can really go any way you want. You don't have to do, scene after scene after scene that butt up against each other.
Right.
All right. So, as I fall and as we are like hitting the floor, like I hear you, like we all kind of are screaming, like,
Umbrah does not scream.
I flash back to a period where we're both like I look as I am now,
Right.
kind of thing, but it doesn't seem unnaturally so, and you look equivalent age.
Right.
And we're there with Bellaman the hedge wizard,
Right.
who is training us, and we're both trying to raise little golems.
Great.
So we're both using our magics to raise little golems. And mine, like the skeleton and sort of head, it's like twigs and an acorn, and your thing is a little chipmunk skull.
I was going to say, his
and
bones.
some like odd bones and
Yeah.
like bits of fur. And
This is much easier than Earth.
so we're raising these little like automatons.
Right.
These little.
Bellaman says, now turn your wrist to the left slightly.
So we adjust, and your golem leaps on mine, and they start fighting.
Right.
And as they fight, though, we start getting bruises
Oh, yeah.
and wounds.
Oh, he says, no, that is not the way.
I think that, as this fight sort of goes on, that Melzakorn would sort of resort to a dirty trick, which is to, cut his hand a little bit and use a little bit of blood magic.
All right. So we'll stop the scene there. How do you guys think it's going to go?
I think that the scene goes positively for Belaria.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll bounce this die to Umbrah.
Booyah.
Yeah.
And the way this plays out, the cut on your hand makes your golem a lot stronger, but also like mine golem like lands a hit right in your face.
Right.
And before, where you were getting like kind of bruised with similar hits, you just crack your nose and blood sprays out the side. Like, it was much harder hit. But then in response, your golem sprouts some claws and just slices mine in half. So it seems like you amplified both effects of your golem, like how much damage it took, but also the strength that it had.
Yeah.
And as we come back into the present, where we both sort of landed, we're getting ourselves up.
Hurt again.
Umbrah is lifting you up, and you can already see like where Umbrah had landed hard on his back. There are already like big black blotchy bruises on your back.
On my
now.
back, yeah.
And those fade though as you gray a little bit and hunker.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. All right.
Great. So I pick up the next scene.
You do. You can anywhere,
Great. I am going to pick back up with the sort of main story action, the present, I guess for lack of a better term, present day. And we're sort of in this dusty, cobweb-filled, I guess, not dungeon, but certainly like lower levels, subfloors, right? And the bird is kind of flapping around above us, laughing at us and saying that it's, it doesn't like to be disturbed. And at that moment, Belaria, you get a taste in your mouth like rotten meat. Like this really nasty taste, really nasty smell. And I do too. And Melzakorn doesn't really mention it or bring it up, but you can see, because you're sort of sensing it from the south, that so has he. And he just starts sort of trotting off toward the south.
So we're headed south.
Yeah. Is that a natural place to end, or do you think it's better to push the scene?
Maybe set something up.
Right.
Like
okay.
What are there an obstacle on the way there? Or...
and as we start,
what I would do is have your scene be where the south is.
Great.
What is that next?
Great.
What is that?
Perfect.
Where do you arrive? Where do we arrive?
Okay, I'm getting the hang of this. This is great. So
like
then
you could even be like, you don't even have to talk about the moving between the two. It's like, we
Right.
fell down. We already knew that. You could be all seen like, this is an hour later. We're in this room now.
Exactly. So after getting that sort of sense, that taste in our mouth, we eventually come up to a large door that is made entirely of bones in this underground level. And as we sort of slowly creak it open, there's a dinner table. In the center of the table is this dark purple book bound in strange flesh, and what looks like a family of 6 skeletons are sitting at the table, and they all turn and look at us.
So what's the outcome here?
I think the outcome goes poorly.
I think it does.
For you, Melzakorn. But you bounce that die to someone.
Great. I'm gonna bounce it, to Belaria. And I sort of give a reason why I'm bouncing it, right?
Wow.
As Melzakorn sees that and just kind of fades into the background and makes sure that Belaria is the sort of the one. Right. It looks like you opened the door, basically.
Right. So I'm right there. Like, you've kind of like
stepped
to the side as you squeaked it open.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm standing there, with like this force just washing over me, the full brunt of it, and even more so, like you're more akin to that force,
right?
And this is the antithesis of my being. So I bow back and retch all over the floor.
Bellaman's been up to some tricks, it looks like.
And I'm going to go ahead and call the scene as the skeletons have been destroyed, as is usually the case, or maybe this is the first time. Umbrah has stepped forward to protect and save Belaria, whether she needs it or not. She probably doesn't. But there just seems to be something that Umbrah, that it does that automatically. And this is no different. Without any command from Melzakorn, this is just something that happens. The battle is over. The skeletons have been pounded into dust. And Umbrah holds the tome in its large, oversized clay hands now. Umbrah looks to Melzakorn and says, "My creator, I will carry the book for safekeeping."
And Melzakorn kind of like strokes the cover with a withered, liver-spotted hand. and says, keep it very safe.
As you wish. And with that, Umbrah's chest opens up and it puts the book inside its chest as it then closes.
Great.
I think that's the end of my scene.
All right. So is that going to go good or bad for Umbrah?
You choose.
Oh.
Because I did the scene with Melzakorn.
I'm going to keep the balance nice and disturbed, and I'm going to bounce a black die.
Okay, so it doesn't go
Send a
well for
bounce.
Umbrah.
Yeah.
Doesn't go well for Umbrah. I'm bouncing it to Melzakorn.
Yeah.
So Umbrah's chest begins to wither and gray. Melzakorn's heart begins to seize up like he's having a stroke or a heart attack or something like that.
Oh, sweet stars.
Umbrah's its entire chest and arms begin to wither and just sort of crack, almost like sand is falling out of its form. It's totally looking like it's weakening, basically.
Right. You could have held that in your hands or in a bag.
Belaria is at a pause point. Yeah, she looks from your dying form to Umbrah's dying form and thinks back to the skeleton fight where Umbrah stepped in front of this wave of force and took it in and just pounded these skeletons to the ground and wrestled the book out of its place, which stopped the wave of energy, and now is torn because I could just let this happen. Instead, I take a gem that's moss encrusted from my pouch and attach it to this stave that I carry, and I touch that to Umbrah's chest where the book was placed. And
So-
what happens? Is it
Umbra,
going to be positive or negative?
Well, let's play the scene out. So you're placing the gem to the chest. Umbrah looks up and says, Greenstars, I can't move.
Well, I think I want to know which way it'll go before I decide what'll happen.
I think it's Giaco's call.
I have a soft spot for my creation, Umbrah, so I think this is going to go
Gonna
well.
well.
So you
For Bella.
give it to John. And
All right, I'm going to bounce this as you have enough die
yeah.
for yourself.
Great.
So what happens is I push life force, and I age. Not to your height, but to my natural age, probably like twice again as old as I was.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So maybe
Yeah.
I looked like I
You
was in
were
my 20s, and now
unaged,
I'm
and now you're,
like
yeah.
20, 30 years older, something
Right.
like that. And so I'm a middle-aged woman now. And the book, like an outline in green and vines of the book. You can't see the book itself, but you kind of note that there's like an big square in your chest, and your form like hardens, and you kind of you regain yourself.
Yeah.
And you actually, your hair gains a little color, and you stand a little straighter.
Nice.
Nice work, Belaria.
I can move once again.
So now we go to the tilt.
All right, cool. So we've determined our tilt elements now.
We have a paranoia tilt, the thing you stole has been stolen, and an innocent tilt, love rears its ugly head.
And that's basically the end of Act 1, and we move on to Act 2.
Hey guys, so we're gonna pause the game right here and continue next week with Fiasco. Thanks for listening to the first part of our Dragonslayer's Fiasco playset. I was one of your players, John Holt. With me was
Ken Breese, thanks, Board Ghosts.
and with us as well.
Giaco Furino.
If you want to learn more about Board Ghost, you can go to our website, boardghost.com, or you can follow us at Board Ghost World on Twitter. And Ken, where can people find you if they want to find out more?
You can find me at Burling's Beard on Twitter, as well as my own site where I blog.
Giaco, where can people find you?
You can find me at Giaco Furino, Giaco Furino.
All right, on Twitter.
On Twitter.
All right, and you can find me at Lord Joho on Twitter. You can find all of our info, some photos of the game, and a little more detail about this game Fiasco on the website, boardghost.com. We interrupt our story here and we'll resume in our next communique. To learn more about the players in the engine in our story, visit boardghost.com. You can attempt to pierce the veil and contact us at BoardGhostWorld on Twitter. Shout through the ether if you have desires we can fulfill. Leave reviews and comments on iTunes and your preferred listening portal. I want to take a second to thank Pat Couples for our awesome theme song and interlude music. You can find more about Pat on his website, patcouples.tumblr.com, and you can find his band on hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, or has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me, no. 'Cause dying don't agree with me, no. Oh,